A quiet connection. I walked into the building that morning like I always did, a few minutes before everyone else. The late October light came through the tall windows, turning everything inside warm and amber. I made myself some coffee and glanced at my calendar. Robert, my manager, wanted to meet about the quarterly numbers. Standard stuff, nothing to get excited about. When I stepped into his office, he was standing by his desk, relaxed and easy. Robert was probably in his mid-50s, with this steady presence that made you feel both challenged and comfortable at the same time. He looked up and smiled. "Come on in, Elena," he said, waving toward a chair. His tone was gentle, but there was something focused about it, like he actually meant every word. I sat down, adjusting my jacket, ready for the usual spreadsheet conversation. But almost immediately, something felt different. Not obvious, not dramatic, just this quiet shift, like the air had changed. He made some casual remark about a delayed report, and I laughed. That's when he leaned forward slightly and said something I wasn't expecting. "Elena, I've always noticed how you handle pressure. You bring both intelligence and authenticity to everything you do. It's rare." I blinked. It sounded like praise, sure, but it felt like more. It wasn't about my performance. It was about me, the real me. And somehow he'd seen it. My face flushed, my heartbeat picked up. I wondered if I'd misread the moment. We kept talking, but the charts and graphs seemed to blur into the background. The conversation became something else, something more personal. He asked about my life outside work, my plans for the weekend, my family. Small questions, but they carried weight. They made me feel noticed in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. When the meeting ended, I left his office with this swirl of feelings. Surprise, curiosity, a quiet thrill. Robert hadn't crossed any lines, not at all. But he'd opened a door I didn't even know was closed, and I found myself wondering what might be on the other side. Walking back to my desk, I realized that the most unexpected moments often arrive wrapped in ordinary conversations, and I had a feeling this was only the beginning. As I walked out that night, the city lights glowing below like scattered stars, I felt like I was standing at the edge of something unexpected, something fragile but undeniable. And for the first time in a while, I was excited to see where it might lead. The next week, every time Robert called me into his office, I felt that same quiet anticipation, not nervousness, something warmer, like stepping into a place where you know you belong, even if you can't explain why. One Thursday morning, he asked me to stay after a team meeting. The room was calm, sunlight streaming through the blinds, casting soft patterns on the floor. I sat across from him, pretending to review my notes, while sneaking glances at his face. He leaned back, fingers laced together, and spoke in that deliberate tone I'd come to recognize. "Elena," he said, "I've been thinking about how rare it is to find someone who truly listens, not just to respond, but to understand." I felt warmth spread through me, like sunlight breaking through clouds. "I think that's rare too," I said softly. "Even here, people listen, but not like that." He nodded. "Exactly. That's why I value our conversations. You make it easier to be honest, even about things I've kept to myself for a long time." For a moment, the world outside seemed to disappear. It was just the two of us, connected by something quiet but powerful. My heart was pounding, not with fear, but with the thrill of being truly seen. He gestured toward the door. "Want to step outside for a minute?" On the terrace, the crisp air wrapped around us. The city stretched out below, distant and small. We walked slowly, and I noticed details I hadn't before. The faint scent of his aftershave, the way he smiled, the calm certainty in his stride. Then he stopped and turned to face me. His voice dropped to almost a whisper. "Elena, I value you more than I said. Not just your work or your mind, but who you are, your kindness, your humor, your thoughtfulness. It's rare, and I notice it." I felt my breath catch. His words carried a depth that made everything inside me come alive. I realized what I was feeling wasn't just admiration, it was recognition, respect, a tender connection that neither of us had forced, but both had nurtured. I spoke before I could stop myself. "I feel the same way, Robert. I notice you too, more than anyone else here." He smiled, that calm, reassuring smile. "I'm glad you said that. I didn't want to risk making it awkward, but I'm glad." We stayed there a while longer, letting the silence speak for us. No grand gestures, no rushed confessions, just the quiet understanding that something meaningful was growing between us. And in that moment, I knew that whatever this was, it was real, and it was ours. It was a quiet Friday afternoon when I realized how much had changed. The office buzzed with its usual energy, but for me, everything felt different. Robert and I still had our meetings, our terrace walks, our meaningful talks, but now there was an unspoken depth in every glance, every word. That day, he called me into his office one last time before the weekend. The late sun poured through the blinds, bathing everything in gold. I felt that familiar flutter of anticipation, the kind that comes from knowing someone truly sees you. "Elena," he said as I sat down, "I've been thinking about our conversations, about you. You've brought something into this place that I didn't realize was missing. Your honesty, your insight, your warmth. It's made everything feel more human." I felt emotion rise in my throat. "Robert, I feel the same way. I never expected to find someone who could listen like you do, or who could make me feel understood in ways I didn't know I needed." He smiled and leaned back. "I think we've both discovered something rare here. Something that isn't about deadlines or office politics, but about recognizing the best in each other. I respect you, Elena, deeply." That's when I realized how much courage it had taken for both of us to be honest. There was no rush, no pressure, just mutual respect and understanding that had grown quietly between us. I felt overwhelming gratitude, not just for him, but for myself, for being brave enough to notice, to feel, and to acknowledge the connection. We spent the next few minutes talking, sharing small stories, laughing softly, and simply enjoying each other's company. It was ordinary, in the most extraordinary way, the kind of moment that stays with you because it feels both natural and significant. As I left that evening, the city lights twinkling below, I felt a deep clarity. Life had surprised me. It had opened a door I didn't know existed. Walking home, I reflected on the journey I'd been on, from thinking it was just another meeting to discovering a profound mutual understanding. I realized that connection, respect, and emotional honesty were rare gifts, and when they appeared, you held them with care. Robert hadn't just said words I couldn't forget. He'd reminded me of the power of being truly seen and of creating space for others to feel the same. And in that quiet, unexpected way, both of us had grown, not just as colleagues, but as people capable of noticing and valuing the depth in each other. That night, sitting by my window with the city lights stretching into the distance, I smiled softly. Life had given me a gift I hadn't anticipated, a reminder that meaningful connection can appear in the most ordinary places, and that the courage to feel, to speak, and to listen can transform simple moments into something unforgettable. And for the first time in a long time, I felt truly, profoundly grateful.